If your entire city was overrun with thousands of deadly creatures looking to feast on human flesh, what would you do? I'm going to break down the mistakes made, what you should do, and how to beat God and his monsters in Day of Reckoning. This father is going to lose almost everyone he gets close to. This group of coworkers are celebrating someone's birthday at a refinery when they spot a shadow emerging from one of the shafts they have drilled deep into the earth. Suddenly, a massive bird-like creature emerges and kills the birthday boy. This thing is ugly and looks like an ancient predator with instincts to kill. More creatures emerge and tear apart everyone in the office. Then, thousands of these beasts pour out of the depths of the earth and attack major cities all around the world. There are endless types of creatures both flying and crawling, each as grotesque and vicious as the others. The entire planet looks overrun and all hope is lost as they wreak havoc at many major landmarks. 15 years later, everything seems to be back to normal and we don't know why. David here is a blue-collar janitor going about a regular day at work. He gets filthy crawling through the vents cleaning up dead animals. He's then brushed off by his snobby co-workers when he tries to talk to them. David has no idea that in less than 24 hours, he will have to turn into an action hero to protect those around him against creatures from hell. At a school, this science teacher is doing some work as her nerdy co-worker comes over to ask for a favor. The man seems interested and asks her out to dinner. The teacher is reluctant and eventually accepts, making the man very happy. Meanwhile, the teacher's son Tyler is at a nearby skate park. When the young skater notices his girlfriend Maddie waiting for him, skating over to her, he asks if she's doing okay, and the girl reveals her parents have left her behind to go on a vacation, but to make matters worse, the eclipse is happening tomorrow. She's terrified she might die, but her boyfriend reassures her they'll survive. That evening, David shows up at the skater's house to pick him up. David and the teacher are the boy's parents. They are divorced but have an arrangement to share custody of their son. The father talks to his ex-wife and it's clear there's bitterness between them, but she allows him to take their son back to his place for the weekend. Over at the father's house, he and Tyler are watching movies late into the night when the phone rings. It's David's uncle calling with urgent news. He warns the father that another day of reckoning will happen again just like it did 15 years ago. The uncle says they have less than 12 hours before it starts and asks them to get to a secure compound in the desert. Meanwhile, the skater sees a breaking story on TV reporting that thousands of fish have washed up dead on shore. This is the first of 3 signs that another worldwide apocalypse is happening, and there's nothing anyone can do to stop it. Okay, the world leaders have totally dropped the ball in this literal doomsday scenario. Even with 15 years to figure out how to prevent another day of reckoning, all they have managed to uncover is 3 signs that another one is coming. Governments around the world should have had their top scientists working round the clock on this. Even though the signs are nowhere near enough information, we can still work with what we have to figure out how to beat this thing. Looking at the first sign, dying fishes is likely just a symptom of an environmental shift, which is lethal to marine life. This environmental shift is the true sign of an approaching day of reckoning. Dead sea life can be caused by a number of observable factors, such as a change in marine temperature, acidity, or oxygenation. Instead of waiting for ocean life to die off because of these changes, which may take several days, we should have been closely measuring changes in these environmental factors for earlier detection. For example, if a change in temperature by just a few degrees will kill fishes off for several days, detecting that change rather than waiting to spot the dead fishes will give us valuable extra days to get everyone to safety. In addition, while the creatures are clearly not native to the known world, they still act just like wild animals. During their first attack 15 years ago, they could be seen to follow the rules of biology. The different types of creatures share similar body types with familiar animals, like dogs and bulls, and have behavioral patterns similar to how regular animals hunt and eat. This means that just like in the animal kingdom we know, they come from a thriving ecosystem with suitable conditions for the creatures to sustain themselves and reproduce. If I were a scientist investigating these creatures, I would recommend expeditions down the refinery shaft to gather information on this ecosystem hidden beneath the ground. Specifically, I would look to gather insights into the natural resources and environmental conditions available to them down there. This is valuable information the human race could use to upset the balance of their ecosystem, such as by introducing invasive species or using chemical weapons to taint the food and water supply. This limits the resources they will need to survive and would mean less of these creatures will live into adulthood to reproduce. Whatever babies they produce are also far less likely to survive infancy. If we can drive these creatures to the brink of extinction in their own subterranean world, they would pose far less of a threat if they ever attack the surface again. Any remaining creatures who still dare to show their faces on the surface will be weakened and far less in number, allowing our military to more easily pick them off. The next morning, the teacher calls David to beg her ex to bring their son back to her. She insists that her new boyfriend, the nerdy coworker, has arranged for them all to take refuge at a safe zone set up by the military. The father agrees and goes to look for his son, but finds that he has sneaked off to meet up with his girlfriend. Tyler has gone to meet her in a nearby park, and as they talk, they see the sky suddenly fill with fleeing birds. This mass migration of avian life is the second of 3 signs that another day of reckoning is approaching. The couple start to panic and run out of the park looking for safety, but are luckily found by Tyler's parents. They know that the creatures are going to return soon, and agree to hide out the military safe zone, driving away in the nerdy boyfriend's car as fast as they can. At the same time, the apocalypse has already begun at the old refinery. The military is now guarding the shaft into the Earth's core as a gateway for dangerous creatures. At that moment, dog-like creatures with spikes all over their backs emerge and kill this worker. The soldiers fire at it with automatic rifles, but their guns hardly seem to do any damage, and the creature pounces at them. Later, the family drives through the congested roadways as everyone is looking to flee the city. They see several people in the streets dressed strangely and carrying signs that the end of the world is approaching. The father and his ex's nerdy boyfriend have an argument about if they should continue to the military safe zone or go to the safe bunker in the desert David's uncle had invited him to the previous night. Neither option seems like a guarantee, but the nerdy coworker insists that he has secured spots for all of them at the safe zone, and they agree to carry on. This is their biggest mistake, and after a short car ride, they finally arrive. It's pandemonium, with hordes of people rushing and begging to be let in. At the gates, the soldier announces the zone is almost full, and they can only accept women and children. The nerdy coworker insists that he had made previous arrangements for all 5 of them to get in, but it's no use. Him and David are turned away to fend for themselves as the teacher, the skater, and his girlfriend are let in. The father assures his son that he'll be alright on his own and will be able to find another safe place, but Tyler here is overwhelmed with worry and can't bear to leave. He rushes back out of the safe zone to hug his father, and the 2 women rush out after him to change his mind. Just then, the safe zone reaches full capacity. The soldiers have stopped letting people enter and will kill anyone who tries to force their way in. These 5 survivors are completely on their own, with hell on earth about to be unleashed on them. Okay, these people are morons. If they had just used some common sense, they would have figured out that there is no such thing as reservations in the middle of a nationwide emergency. There have been news broadcasts on TV about the coming chaos since 1 AM the previous night. There are even lunatics in the streets shouting about the end of the world and stirring everyone into a frenzied panic. This means everyone in the city has already been fleeing to find safety for hours now, and any protected zone with a location known to the public will already be overrun. The chances of there still being space for the entire family so close to the apocalypse are slim to none. Also, since the safe zone the family tries to get into is run by the military, it makes sense the entrances are guarded by low-ranking officers. These officers will have their hands full controlling the hordes of panicked people trying to rush in, and are obviously not the same ones managing the phone lines and agreeing to reservations. In fact, any notion of reservations would have been dropped very early on, because asking people for their ID and having to check their names against a giant reservation list is a complete waste of time, which no one will entertain in the middle of a disaster. If the family wanted to hide in the safe zone, their only chance would have been to arrive hours earlier, beating the crowd of terrified civilians. As such, the desert bunker is the much better option here. Since this is a secluded building privately built by David's paranoid uncle, no one else would know about it, and it is much more likely to have free space for the entire family. If I were in David's shoes, I would do anything in my power to force my ex to ditch her nerdy boyfriend and come up to the desert bunker with me. Tyler here is the key. The ex has previously called, absolutely worried sick about the boy's safety. It is clear that whether Tyler goes, his mother will gladly follow. Both the boy and his girlfriend dress in an alternative style and enjoy skating. This means that they are likely swayed by counterculture and are open to looking beyond instructions given by authority figures. It will hence be easy to use the close bond between father and son to convince them that the government shelters controlled by the military cannot be trusted, and that we should instead take refuge in the desert bunker no one else knows about. Once the teens are on board, we can drive towards the bunker as quickly as possible. That way, by the time the teacher and her boyfriend catches up with us, it would simply be more convenient to make it the rest of the way to the bunker. The teacher wants to stick with her son, and will agree to follow us anywhere as long as the boy is already convinced about the bunker idea. The group drives up to the school and tries to get inside to take cover, but that's when a solar eclipse hits. This is the third and final sign that the day of reckoning is here. Sure enough, countless creatures pour out of the ground and run rampant in the streets. They start killing everyone they encounter, and the human race looks totally defenseless against these vicious monsters. Unable to find a way into the school, the group try to get back into the car, but David and the nerdy coworker start fighting over who should drive. The nerd punches David, when suddenly one of the bird creatures digs its talons into his shoulders and swoops the man up. The family watches helplessly as the poor man is killed in midair. That makes 1 survivor down, with 8 more to go. The family drives away, resolving to reach the desert bunker David's uncle had promised. According to the news, the creatures have very few weaknesses, but simple salt is lethal to them. The group travels down an empty waterway and encounters several abandoned vehicles nearby, but quickly realizes that something is very wrong. The car has run out of gas, and they are in the middle of nowhere. The father tells his family to lock themselves in the car as he gets out to look for another vehicle. He finds an unlocked car and gets in, discovering that the driver is hiding in the back seat. The man tells David to stay quiet and points at a bull-like creature eating a corpse nearby. David quietly maneuvers the new car close to where his family is trapped and signals for them to sneak into the new vehicle. The creature takes notice and looks ready to attack, but the driver charges out and throws salt at it, hoping to slow it down. It doesn't work. The creature charges the driver and mauls the man, killing him instantly. That makes 2 survivors down, with 7 more to go. Using the new vehicle, the family make it to the desert bunker and find it locked. They bang on the door and wave to the cameras on the bunker's roof, but there's no response. They grow worried that the uncle isn't even inside and no one can save them. With the creatures coming soon, the family grows more desperate and start hitting the metal door with rocks and trying to break a window on the side of the building. Nothing budges. At the worst possible time, things take a drastic turn. They hear a terrifying noise in the distance and look up to see hundreds of demonic creatures charging straight for them down a hill. They are completely outnumbered and have no big weapons to protect themselves. Not willing to go down without a fight, the father arms himself with a crowbar and turns towards the onslaught, ready to face these overwhelming odds himself, even though he has a 0% chance to survive. Okay, everyone here is pretty much doomed unless they are saved by a miracle. In addition to David's uncle expecting them, the uncle's vehicle is already parked in front of the bunker, and he has had time to carefully cover it with camouflage. This means that he is inside and capable of seeing them through the cameras. There's absolutely no reason to bang loudly on the door and create loud noises, which nearby creatures will hear. Earlier, a creature walked by and was mere inches away from David and did not seem to be able to see or smell him. However, when the car started beeping as the family tried to change vehicles, the creature noticed immediately and charged over. This suggests the creatures hunt primarily through their sense of hearing. Since they come from the depths of the earth where no sunlight can reach, it makes sense that they rely on sounds rather than sight. This is why it's a terrible idea to be banging on the doors in the middle of an open space where sound can travel. Instead, they should have called the uncle ahead of time to make sure he has the doors unlocked for them and use the bunker's intercom setup for the exact purpose of letting people outside communicate with people inside. David should also have realized that trying to fight hundreds of monsters with only a crowbar would not even have bought his family more than a few seconds. Instead, he should have noticed that these creatures can be easily distracted with food. The bull creature at the waterway did not sense that they were nearby when it was focused on eating a dead body. The family should have picked up 2 or 3 corpses during their journey to the bunker to use as a distraction. Given that the road is littered with dead bodies, this should be easy to do. Then, before they make a planned stop such as to approach the bunker, they should unload the dead bodies. If they had placed the bodies a good 50 feet away from the bunker near possible points the creatures can attack from, such as the dirt road or the hill, any creatures in the area would stop defeating the bodies and not even bother approaching the family. Since salt is lethal to them, David can even lace the meat with vast amounts of salt and hope that any monster who eats the flesh will get poisoned and weakened. If all else fails, the family should get back into their vehicle and drive into the bunker door at full speed in an attempt to ram it down. This is a dangerous risk which may result in a few injuries, but even that is better than facing hordes of creatures with only a crowbar, which spells certain death. If the door is successfully rammed off its hinges, the family can then enter the bunker and put the door back in place. They can then barricade it with heavy objects from the inside to once again seal off the bunker's entrance. Just seconds before the creatures can kill David, the group hears a voice from the bunker's speakers. It's the uncle telling them to come in as they hear the bunker's doors unlock. They all make it inside just in time and shut the door, locking the creatures out as they pound on the door trying to break it down. Inside, the father sees his uncle, aunt, and this shady-looking soldier he has never met before. The soldier claims to be the son of the uncle's army buddy, saying he got separated from his unit and was attacked by creatures. Luckily, he remembers that the uncle had this bunker here and sought it out as a safe place. David isn't convinced, but lets it go as the group takes a rest to have some food. During the meal, the soldier starts to talk about himself and things get creepy as he explains that he believes the creatures are demons from hell sent to punish mankind for their wrongdoings. The uncle catches David's eyes and signals for him to take a knife from the table to protect himself. With his suspicions heightened, David does not let his ex-wife leave the room alone when she says she wants to go to sleep. The soldier sees this and knows David is onto him, so he pulls out a gun and threatens the family. Seeing an opportunity, the skater tries to ambush him from behind, but it doesn't work. The soldier throws him off, now even more tempted to kill everyone and keep the bunker and its supplies to himself. At that moment, the group realizes that the ruckus outside has gone quiet. They try to listen when a snake-like creature bursts out and bites the ant in the neck. Capitalizing on this distraction, David attacks the soldier and overpowers him, taking his gun and knocking him to the ground. As the others tend to the ant's wound, the soldier sees that he's now at the mercy of the family. He shares that the creatures will go back through the gate in a few hours, but the bunker door will not hold out that long. He tells the others that the gateway to the old refinery is safe because the creatures have left the area and they can travel there to hide out until the creatures go back to hell. The soldier says he has parked his vehicle a short distance away and they should make a run for it before the creatures break in. Having no other choice, the family agrees to his plan. They tie up his hands and prepare to leave, grabbing all the weapons and supplies they need to survive. As the others head out, David opens the door, causing the demons to come pouring into the bunker. This humanoid creature charges him, but the father sprays it with a fire extinguisher and slows it down to get away just in time. Okay, it was clear from the start that this soldier is bad news. David here needed to trust his gut from the start. If I were in David's shoes, I would covertly test the soldier's story by asking more about his relationship with my uncle. This guy is claiming his father and my uncle served in the war together. If I make up a lie about my uncle's time in the military and ask the soldier, how did your dad survive training in Ecuador, Uncle Ted won't stop complaining about it. The soldier will be forced to show his hand. He needs to gamble, either correcting the statement, saying the battalion never trained in Ecuador, or play along and confirm that his dad served there too. This lets us catch him in a lie about his cover story. Since we outnumber him 6-1, it will then become far easier to plan to catch him off guard. As long as the soldier continues to believe we do not suspect him, he will try to act like everything is normal so as to not arouse suspicion. The guy isn't even holding his weapon while he's eating, and he lets people like this ant come and go freely. I would pretend to walk to the pantry for more stew, then search the other room for a weapon I can use to ambush him from around the corner. The food preparation area is likely to have a number of knives or even boiling water that we can use to incapacitate him before he can reach for his gun. This guy held the uncle at gunpoint and clearly cannot be trusted. There is zero value allowing him to lead the family to his vehicle when the uncle's jeep is parked under camouflage right outside. Even with the creatures surrounding the bunker, it is less of a risk getting to the vehicle mere feet away than the trek hours through the wilderness for the soldier's vehicle. The soldier is completely expendable, and the family should have used him as bait. Once he is subdued, they should have tied up his hands and taped a mobile phone to his clothes. Then, they can force him out of the bunker's back door and set off a loud alarm on the phone. The alarm will draw the creatures to him and away from the front door. Without any weapons, the soldier will be forced to run as far away from the bunker as possible to escape, taking the creatures with them since they will be attracted to the alarm. This gives the family a prime opportunity to make a run for the uncle's jeep from the front door. Once they are in the vehicle, they are free to follow the soldier's plan of driving to the refinery or to find another safe location to lock themselves in till the horror subsides. Later, the group travel on foot along a dirt path towards the soldier's vehicle. Even though his hands are still tied up and the others don't allow him to carry a gun, the soldier leads the way. The ant collapses to the ground, feeling the full effects of her worsening injury. The others help her up and they continue walking, but it's clear this woman needs help now. David and his ex reconnect over their shared predicament, and their son seems happy that his parents are on better terms. Just then, they spot a bird creature sitting right beside the path. It's motionless and appears to be dead. Everyone is wary of going near it and wants to carry on, but this girl's curious and walks up to it. Just as she touches its razor-sharp beak, her boyfriend calls out to her, but it's too late. Another creature is nearby and wraps a tentacle around her leg. The girl is dragged towards a dark pit in the ground, and she screams for help as her boyfriend holds onto her for dear life. David struggles to detach the tentacle from her leg, while his ex-wife fires her gun at it, finally causing it to let go and spares the girl. The creature looks on menacingly from the darkness of the pit as the group runs away. While they flee, the soldier reasons with David, saying he is far more valuable to the group if his hands are free. After a short pause, David agrees and cuts him loose. Left alone, the soldier rolls up his sleeve to reveal that he has been bitten on the arm, and the wound is severely infected. After the sun rises, the group makes it to a cliff and discovers that the entire city has been destroyed. Buildings are leveled, and multiple places are on fire. They pause to mourn for the thousands of people who have no doubt perished in the chaos before continuing on their journey. Sometime later, they finally reach the soldier's jeep, but that's when a whole stampede of creatures appears at the top of the hill and begins to charge at the group. As they prepare to start the vehicle, the ant begins to succumb to her infection. She looks terrible, with the infection spreading to her eyes, making them bloodshot, and dark veins appear all over one side of her body. Suddenly losing control, she grabs her husband's gun and tries to shoot him, but he ducks away. She runs from the vehicle and he takes the gun from her, but it's no use, as the massive creatures completely overrun her. Her husband screams in anguish as his wife dies, and that makes 3 survivors down with 6 more to go. The creatures charge up to the vehicle, but it starts just in time, and the group drives off with the beasts hot on their trail. Okay, taking this infected woman with them at all was a death wish. David should have seen that the bite was visibly affecting her and altering her behavior. Since salt kills the creature, he can try to cure the woman with it. Giving her something to bite down on to numb the pain, David can try sprinkling salt in her wound to see if it kills the virus, causing the infection like how it kills the creatures. If that doesn't work, at least they have made an effort to save the woman. David can then explain to his family that they have no choice but to leave her behind. While it is sad to leave a loved one, it is clear that this woman is doomed no matter what, and the last thing she wants is to cause the death of her family. This way, she will still have time to say goodbye to her husband and family before the infection takes over her mind. This is a more peaceful ending than suddenly losing control in the middle of a crisis. Nonetheless, even if the aunt starts to turn violent while out in the open, we can turn this into an advantage and use her proximity to the horde of creatures to send these monsters a deadly gift. The family should pull the pins out of these grenades they've collected from the bunker and load the infected woman up with them. This will buy precious time as the creatures advance on her, bringing the grenades right in the middle of them before they blow up. In case anyone else is at risk of infection, David should also have insisted that everyone check each other for bites and infections even before the group left the bunker. This is important, as they're all going to be carrying weapons, and an infected survivor could easily turn their gun onto the others as they lose control. It is also completely unknown if getting infected would cause other dangerous effects, such as the infected person emitting scents that will lead more creatures to the group. The men and women can go into separate rooms, then completely strip down so they can examine each other and try to spot any suspicious bites. We are completely beyond modesty by this point, and having a stranger see your embarrassing tattoo is a small price to pay for survival. Without infected survivors to slow them down or turn on them at the worst moments, the family is far more likely to survive the trek out into the open they are planning. The group reaches the refinery and finds that the doors are wide open. Things aren't going to plan, and someone or something is already inside. With no other options, they pick up their guns and head into the building. Everything seems quiet, but something is still lurking here. The others find some first aid to tend to their wounds, while David and the soldier go to turn on the power. On their way back, they spot the dead bodies of other soldiers littered through the facility and rush back to the others. The group knows the refinery is not safe and prepares to fend off the creatures, but there's a problem. The soldier is not doing well. He is sweating and clutches his head as his infection spreads, but he still does not tell the group. Suddenly, a humanoid creature with terrifyingly sharp teeth attacks him from behind, but David grapples with it, saving the soldier. Both men struggle with its attacks, but manage to shoot at it dozens of times as it thrashes, finally killing the beast. The corpse sizzles and dissolves into ashen liquid in an instant. As everyone stands over its remains, the soldier runs away. He locks himself in a secure room as the others bang on the door, but he will not listen. The soldier takes off his jacket to reveal that the infection has spread badly. Black veins were creeping up his chest and towards his face. He just wants to save himself and is happy to leave the others to die as creatures overrun the facility. Realizing there's no point reaching the soldier, the family continues on. They barricade themselves into another part of the refinery. David touches a pipe and finds salt residue on it. This makes them realize that they can rig the sprinklers with a saltwater solution and activate them throughout the facility. Since salt is lethal to the creatures, every monster within the facility can be killed if they can get this plan to work. David heads off alone to activate the salt water while his family go to the control room where the sprinklers can be set off. He climbs a ladder and finds a valve to the saltwater circulation tank. He spots a creature feeding on a body nearby but turns the valve anyway, trying to keep as quiet as possible. It works. Salt water starts to fill the tank. David climbs into the air ducts to return to his family, but the creature has heard him. As the father crawls through the ducts, he hears clanging as the creature enters behind him and starts catching up. He tries to hurry, but it's too late. It's too quick and pounces at David, growling and clawing at his legs as the father tries to get away. David kicks it off, but realizes he has no other weapon. As a last resort, he takes his salt supply from his belt and throws it on the creature. It reacts immediately to the assault before screaming and disintegrates on the spot. Okay, this is the worst idea the group could have come up with. They came to the refinery for two main reasons: to treat the infected and to seek protection from the soldiers who were supposed to be there. Since the aunt has perished and the soldiers suffered a similar fate, the refinery is now the most dangerous place they can be over the next few hours. During the previous day of reckoning, the creatures all retreated back down the refinery shaft after 24 hours. This means that if they follow the same pattern this time, the refinery is the only place on Earth that is guaranteed to be overrun by creatures in just a few hours. David here should have remembered that the group walked for hours through the desert until night turned to day and did not get attacked by any creatures. Rural places like that would be the safest points to be over the next few hours because the creatures are attracted to sound and food, and the desert is silent and empty. As soon as they saw that the soldiers at the refinery were dead, David should have taken his family back to the vehicle and driven back into an unpopulated area. The sea or any body of salt water would be perfect. Since the creatures cannot touch the salt water, the survivors can swim or take a makeshift raft out to sea, where they will be protected by tens of thousands of gallons of salt water. If there isn't a sea nearby, David can drive them back into the rural desert. Since the creatures will be returning back to the refinery soon, he should avoid roads to other cities. The creatures currently terrorizing those cities will likely be taking those roads back to the refinery. Instead, he should travel as far away from civilization as possible, towards areas where there's absolutely no human activity. There, the family can wait quietly for the final few hours before the creatures leave. If they still decide to enter the refinery, The family should at least treat the whole place like the death trap swarming with creatures that it is. They have already seen that the monsters can climb pipes and leave bodies in high places, and that there are creatures all over the refinery eating the human corpses. This means that it is not safe to move around through the main corridors, where they can be easily seen and heard. If they instead traveled from room to room via the air ducts, they will be safe from these monsters so long as they don't notice the humans crawling in. These creatures do not seem especially smart. They had earlier spent hours mindlessly pounding on the bunker door instead of searching for the back entrance or looking for other points of entry. They also seem focused on eating their victims and do not react to the many sounds coming from the bunker's machinery. This means that if the group travels by the vents, any clanging they make will not be noticed by the creatures, as the sounds are no different from the machinery. All the monsters will see if they look at the vent is an uninteresting metal pipe in the ceiling that looks like the many other pipes and valves around it. The family reaches the control room at the top of the refinery, but sees that creatures have spotted them and are climbing up the pipes to attack. At the same time, David gets to an intercom and announces over the facility speakers for his family to pull the fire alarm. This will unleash salt water over the creatures and save everyone. The family spots the alarm switch nearby, but the creatures have arrived and are blocking the way. With no other choice, the uncle tells the skater to look after his family and charges at the monsters, sacrificing himself. The uncle manages to knock a few of them down with an axe, but they quickly surround and overwhelm him. The family fires on the demons to slow them down, but it's not enough. They sink their claws into the man and tear him to pieces as the family watches helplessly. That makes 4 survivors down, with 5 more to go. With their enemies distracted, the skater makes it to the alarm and pulls the lever. This activates the sprinklers and causes salt water to rain down on everyone. It works. The creatures are drenched in the salt solution and fall where they stand, dissolving into a nasty sludge as they die. The family look on at the uncle's dead body as the water runs out, grateful for his sacrifice. They start to make their way back to David, but suddenly there is a massive commotion outside. The day of reckoning is almost over, and creatures from all over the country start to return to the abyss they came from. Wave after wave of creatures pour into the refinery and back down the shaft into the Earth's core. Thousands of bird creatures fly down the refinery's smokestack, while thousands more dog creatures pounce down the ground chute. As they flee, the family is stopped dead in their tracks. The soldier has returned and stands in their way, holding a pistol. He is now fully infected and has lost any trace of humanity he had left. He shoots the skater in the shoulder and threatens the rest of the family. The soldier is convinced that the world is coming to an end and that the Earth no longer belongs to the human race. Just as he raises the gun to kill them all, David returns and ambushes him. He knocks the man to the ground with a fire extinguisher and takes his gun. As the father reunites with his cowering family, they hear a terrifying noise. A massive centipede creature with giant mandibles and dozens of spikes for legs bursts out from below. David shoots at it with the soldier's pistol, but it barely flinches. In one instant, it swoops up the soldier and starts to devour him whole. The man can only scream in pain as he is crushed and eaten by the hideous creature. That makes 5 survivors down, with 4 more to go. Okay, using salt water is a stroke of genius, but it should never have been wasted that quickly. As they have seen, the water from the saline tank only lasted for under a minute before the sprinklers ran out. A building of this size has hundreds of sprinklers all connected to the central tank. While in the water tank room, David should have searched for a control panel to turn off all sprinklers except crucial ones. The only sprinklers the family needs are these 3 above the walkway to the control room to protect the rest of the family, and 1 more above a spot of David's choosing to protect himself. All other sprinklers over empty parts of the building are useless. If the group can cut down the number of sprinklers activated from 200 to just 4, the time they can spend protected by the shower of salt water will increase from 50 seconds to almost 42 minutes. Using the same idea of conserving the salt water as much as possible, another plan the family could have explored is to turn the water into a ranged weapon. Taking water bags from either the bunker or refinery supply room, they could have filled them with salt water. Anytime a creature tried attacking, David and his family could aim the bag's nozzle at it and spray lethal salt water over its body. Using salt from a simple shaker has already proven to be effective, and this would allow the survivors to spray salt further and over a wider area. As the family saw, the other threat they have to worry about is the infected soldier. Unlike the creatures, he is human and will not be stopped by salt water. The door to the room he has locked himself in swings outwards. This means that if we push pieces of heavy machinery in front of it, he will stay trapped inside and will not be able to ambush us when we least expect it. Another benefit of trapping him is that this will likely trick him into wasting his ammunition. The soldier only has 1 pistol, which typically holds up to 17 rounds of ammo. Once he realizes that he can't get out of the room, he will likely panic and try to break out. Since the heavy barricade won't budge, he might resort to trying to shoot the lock and door. If the family taunts him from outside while safely hiding around corners, he might even get angry enough to try and take them down with them by shooting them through the door. The aim here is to get him to waste all his ammo so that if he somehow escapes while the others are battling the creatures, he will be weakened from the infection and completely unarmed. Picking up the injured skater, the family escapes down a hall with a centipede creature close behind. They reach a small supply room and lock themselves inside, but the group has a plan to kill the creature. David scrambles to find a large container, while the women start pouring pouring chemicals and salt into it and mixing them. The teacher finds a roll of duct tape and they start to tape up the container with their concoction, making it airtight. Pressure starts to build in the container as the chemical reaction inside becomes increasingly volatile. At that moment, the centipede creature finds the room. It can sense the families inside and growls at them through the glass panel on the door. It bursts through the door and sends it splintering inwards with no effort at all, then charges towards the family. David throws an axe at it, but the creature is unfazed. Seeing the fizzling bomb at his feet, he then kicks the volatile container of chemicals towards the creature. This makeshift chemical bomb starts to steam in the creature's face, then explodes. The salt in the chemicals reacts to the beast's skin immediately. It writhes in pain and thrashes about helplessly as it dissolves into the floor. With the final creature defeated and the rest having returned to the depths of the earth, the family breathes a huge sigh of relief. They hug each other and start to laugh in disbelief. The family finally make their way to the exit and emerge from the refinery to find that the outside world is once again safe from these creatures from the depths of hell. The skater and his girlfriend kiss, grateful for each other and to have survived the perils of this day. David and his ex-wife embrace, with their relationship largely mended through being forced to work together for their family. Both couples hold on to each other as they venture back out into the world, ready to face a new day. Meanwhile, the streets are in ruins. Many buildings are on fire, with some entirely demolished by the day's events. Those lucky enough to have survived would do well to make the most of their borrowed time. With the origin and motives of these creatures still completely unknown, the survivors should now be doing all they can to crack the code on how to beat the next Day of Reckoning. But what do you think? How would you beat Day of Reckoning? Let me know with a comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. If you like and subscribe, and check out the How to Beat playlist for more videos like this. Until next time, have a damn good day.